Hey, how's it going? Craig here, and in this little series of courses, what I want to do is run through the nutrition, excuse me, still got this cold, the basic nutrition training that we run at Team Bootcamp, when people come and stay with us on the residential programs and what have you. And we stick to this framework. You know how much I love a great framework of Foodfacts. And obviously each letter stands for a principle that you should adopt with regards to your nutrition. So basically, let's have a look where this kind of sits. These are the sort of three aspects of team, okay? And team is an acronym and it stands for think, eat and move. And what we get you to do is we get you to do each one of these three fundamentals different. We need to get it to do you different because we cannot have any change. Nothing can change in your life unless something changes. People often miss this. You know, they kind of think, oh, I didn't realise I was going to have to change the way that I eat, or I didn't realise I was going to have to train differently, or, you know, think differently, or speak to myself differently, or whatever. And but obviously, you know, if you want change, you've got to do something different, and that's what this is about. So for each aspect of these three components, we have little excuse me, we have little models. In the think side of things, there is the Conquer Food program, which obviously this is primarily why you join this program, to learn the Conquer Food principles. And then we've got Foodfacts and Fed Up, which are two different levels. One's a beginner, one's an advanced level of nutrition. And then we have this GPPH3, which may change in the future because it just doesn't run off the tongue well enough for me. But this kind of, you know, this is what we kind of teach with the fitness side of things. So that's that. What I will say is that these are when you're learning about these things, you've kind of got to concentrate on what's being said. Now, what I mean by that is a lot of people concentrate on what's not being said. They hear what's being said, but then sort of think, well, yeah, but if that's the case, that means that then I can go and eat this. A prime example would be if I say, you know, cut down on starchy carbs, they could interpret that as max out on non-starchy carbs. That's, you know, or refined sugar. You know, that means I can have as much refined sugar as I want. This is kind of what happened with the Atkins diet. You know, the Atkins diet fundamentally is a great diet. It's, you know, it's phenomenal. Some of the results and the effects it has on the body when followed to the letter. You know, when you do the things that are said, are prescribed. Brilliant. But what happened was humans being humans and human nature kind of letting us down, as always, is the interpretation of it. And it was kind of said, you know, on this day, you've got to have, you know, 0 calories or whatever. And people was having like 0 calorie soft drinks, you know, and it was just like, you're messing about with it. So always concentrate on what's being said and kind of ignore, you know, do not allow your mind to slip into what's not being said, where you kind of fill the void of all these, you know, different things, which is just you're way off the mark and you're causing yourself problems. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing I want to talk about is the fact that I'm not necessarily going to tell you about what foods you should be eating and why, and, you know, have these many black currants on a Monday because it does this and does that, and that's not what this is about. It's about changing your whole philosophy on why you eat, the way that you eat, and all this kind of stuff. If you want a recipe book, there's recipes available. If you know, but that's not what this is about. You know, the reason being is that people want, you know, if we imagine, you know, if you've worked through the Conquer Food part of this and you kind of think about the tree of truth, you may have come across the tree of truth. Lots of people want the answers in the symptoms, which is like the branches and the leaves and all that kind of stuff, but that's not where true change comes from. True change comes from the roots, you know, and the goodness, it transpires to the fruits, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. It's about hitting the roots, not the little symptoms. An example might be, you know, we all know that a bloody avocado smoothie for breakfast is gonna serve you well. You know, it's gonna give you lots of nutrients and vitamins and all this kind of stuff. But what happens when, like, your family turns up and everybody wants to go out for breakfast? There's a bit of an event. What happens then? You forget about your green smoothie, don't you? You know, what happens when you go to a party and there's loads of cake there at a buffet and it's like, you start having a few drinks and all this kind of stuff. What about then? You know what food you should be eating and what food you shouldn't be eating, in my experience. What's gone wrong is you don't do what you know, and all these fundamentals about doing what you know, changing who you fundamentally are and how you see food, how you react to food, how you react to social events, how you react to all these kind of things. Okay, so that's what these principles are about. All right, so we're going to get straight into it. The first one then is forget what you know. Okay, so when you first started this Conquer Food program, you would have come with all sorts of preconceived ideas about what dieting should be, about, people need to lose weight and this is how they should do it. What I want to tell you is that the majority of that information has been misinterpreted, right? And it's a bit like the old Chinese whispers. That's a perfect example. It starts off and it's like, yeah, I lost loads of weight because I was just having like one coffee a day for a month. Of course you lost weight. People then interpret that as like, okay, well, I only have to have one coffee a day and I can lose loads of weight. Excuse me. And then it's interpreted as, well, I can have one latte a day and I can lose loads of weight. And then it's interpreted as, well, I can have one latte, macca, chocolate, fripper latte, and I can lose loads of weight. You see how things, get embellished, and before you know it, you're not losing any weight because you're packing in the calories and you're drinking it all, and it's messing around with your insulin and all this kind of stuff. So you will come with loads. The obvious one is this idea of fat. We're going to talk about fat a little bit later on, but we're petrified about fat. We want low fat food because we think that's what's going to help us lose weight and all this kind of stuff. And what I'm basically saying in this first part of this Food Facts series is any knowledge that you've got about dieting, any knowledge that you've got about supposed health foods and all this kind of stuff, I just want you to park it. I want you to imagine just putting it on the shelf and going, right, you know what, I'll come back to that in a bit. There might be some good stuff in there, but I just want you to embrace the kind of stuff that we're saying here. All right, and if you can do that, you're going to open up your mind for all the different, possibilities and what we're doing right now. And you've got to remember that when you get, how do you say it? Quite often with like a celebrity trainer or someone in the public eye, you've got to imagine that what you're basing their authority on is one of the things is their own image. Okay, and you kind of think, well, if they're doing it, look how great they look. But it doesn't always work like that because, we all know people that can seem to eat whatever they want and they never seem to put any weight on. And we all know people that smoke like crazy, but then they can run. There are some genetic freaks out there that, just get away with it. Me, probably you, probably if you're watching this, definitely Paula, we're not one of those genetic freaks. If I even look at a burger, I put a stone on and all that kind of stuff. These things, and I can't get away with a lot of stuff these people do. But they get away with it because they've got great genetics. They love exercise. It doesn't really matter what their training's like because they've got good physiques, and that's just how it is. But we see it as almost like the Bible. We see it as like, well, look at that. If I want to be like that, then I've got to train like that. You kind of miss this idea of genetics. Now, not everything's down to genetics, and there's a lot of fitness professionals that have worked really, really hard for their figures. Yeah, of course they have. But they don't always give you the truth. They don't always give you that. So what I want you to do is I just want you to park it all. Just until you get through this series. And what you'll do as well is it's almost like having, if we have sunglasses on, it taints the picture of the screen. It turns all the screen a little bit darker, it dulls down some of the colours and all this kind of stuff because you're looking through lenses at what we're talking about. And if you hold on to some of that health and fitness knowledge, of which a lot of them will be myths and like misinterpretations, it's going to taint what we're actually talking about. So get it out of the way. Just make a mental note to get it out of the way, so that you can really listen to what we're going to say now. Okay, and my promise on the back of that is if you can put it to one side, I promise that the steps that follow are going to serve you incredibly well. Okay, only when you start, if you start to feck about with it and try and mess around with it to suit you and the shit that you want, will it start to fail. Okay, what I mean by that is I'll say to you, focus on, get rid of anything that's white. You know what I mean? You don't need to be eating white bread, white rice, white pasta, potatoes, and all this kind of stuff. And you go, but this cake's brown. I'll start eating the brownie. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. When you start to misinterpret it and try and fit it into the box within the parameters, and you know damn well it's not, okay, that's when things start going wrong. Okay, so that's the first thing. Kind of forget what you know. Just park it one side just until you get through this series. And in exchange, I promise you, the things that we're going to go through are going to be really, really powerful and really, really going to help you. And they've helped thousands of people, for years and years now, really take charge of their eating and completely change the way that they look at food and feel about food. I'll see you in the next video.